He will be accompanied by Kim Jong Un, who coordinated with the intelligence chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. in the preparatory meetings. You can see him. He's approaching South Korean leader Kim Jong Un, or South Korean President Moon Jae-in, rather. The two Koreas have a historic handshake, and they're exchanging soft talk. We don't know what they're saying exactly, but Kim Jong Un is speaking to Moon Jae-in. They're still holding hands and greeting each other. It's a historic moment for the two Koreas. North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has stepped over the military demarcation line. The two leaders have greeted each other and are taking a photograph. Now, it's a very historic moment. It's the first time for a North Korean leader to hold summit talks on the South Korean side of the border. Another handshake there for a photograph. Oh, holding hands as they walk. Another handshake. Oh, they're coming back. So the two leaders will have a welcoming ceremony before they start official talks at 10:30 a.m.
Support over the years, their big brother country, China.
And with that outfit, we can assume that he wanted to express and show more about his regime, even though he is meeting with the South Korean leader, Moon Jae-in. He wanted to, be the presence of the regime himself as he walked through that demarcation line with his own left foot, was it? I missed it, but...
This is definitely a big coming out party for the North Korean leader. All eyes will be on him. And it is a rare instance because whenever we hear about instances where Kim Jong Un is going to be in the public spotlight, it's carefully filtered and orchestrated to make sure the best side of him is shown. Nothing less than perfect can be allowed for the rest of the world to watch. But now, here he is. Out in the open. Exactly
right. That is why today and this moment is very crucial. We don't see him live that often on TV. This is live broadcast being beamed around the world. And as you said, North Korea do have their state-owned television that broadcast also on the every move of the leader Kim Jong Un. But they are pre-taped, so they edit stuff out. They coordinate stuff before they air the taped version of their leader being showed to the people. But today we are seeing live, unfiltered version of the North Korean leader side by side with South Korean Moon Jae-in walking through and now receiving the honor of guards.
A grand gesture of welcome that's reserved for the highest of dignitaries. This is something that we have not seen in Panmunjom in the past. Certainly not in this design, not in this scale.
Not this
completely
setting at all.
Covered with red carpet all over the place. It's really quite exhilarating, and we are going to be at a loss for words, groping for words to describe this emotion that we're feeling as Koreans. It is a little different to the rest of the world who have been watching and asking us, which side are you from, north or south, whenever we meet foreigners outside of our nation. And it was, at the same time, a little bit baffling, but a little sad at the same time. That was the reality of our country.
And as you said, because the North Korean leader, it is his first time that South Korea is greeting the North Korean leader to South Korea. Good morning and welcome to this special edition of Arirang News. It is 7 a.m. Friday, April 27th, live from our studio in Paju overlooking the Torasan checkpoint. I'm Shin Se-min.
And I'm Daniel Che. Throughout the day, we will be keeping you up to date with all the latest developments from this historic summit between South and North Korea.
And it is also a big day ahead of us. And moments ago that we have learned, the North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has left the capital of Pyongyang to make his way to the border village of Panmunjom, where he will be meeting with South Korean leader Moon Jae-in in a couple of hours' time, which is scheduled at 9:30 a.m. South Korea time.
Right, if all things go as planned, we will see them making first contact and shaking hands, of course, at that very hour, as you mentioned, 9:30 a.m. South Korea time. We begin our newscast first by going to the main press center.
That's where our Park Ji-won is on standby, part of the Panmunjom press pool, who is going to be giving us the latest detail coming out of the main press center at Kintex in Goyang, some 20 kilometers north of Seoul. Ji-won, what do we know so far?
Well, Samin, as you said, nearly 3,000 members of the press from 360 media companies and from more than 40 countries have registered here at the main press center to cover this historic event. As of now, more and more reporters and media staff are coming in to prepare for the summit that's going to start some 2 hours from now. Well, there's a sense of excitement and anxiousness in the air as this is the first summit meeting in 11 hours, only the third of its kind since the Korean War, with two previously held in 2000 and 2007, respectively. And this will be the first time for a sitting North Korean leader to step onto South Korean territory in over 6 decades. And of course, the key issue of the press here, as well as politicians and watchers from all over the world, is what will be the outcome of these rare, historic inter-Korean summit talks. If the two leaders do agree on the major issues like the declaration of the end of Korean War, and they agree to end the 1953 Armistice Treaty and replace it with a new peace treaty, then this will bring official peace to the Korean peninsula, changing the dynamics of not only Northeast Asia, but also the international order. Well, that's all I have for now from the 2018 Inter-Korean Summit Press Center. Back to you.
And now we bring things back to the Torasan checkpoint for a look at how the press here is prepping for the big day of the summit.
And for that, we have our reporter Park Hee-jun, who is our eyes on the ground, for a look at the atmosphere going around our studio here in Paju. Hee-jun, can you tell us more about this checkpoint for those of us who may not be very familiar with this very important location?
Good morning, Saemin and Daniel. The Torasan checkpoint is actually only a couple of kilometers away from Panmunjom, where Moon and Kim will meet very, very soon. You can basically think of this checkpoint as the gateway that connects the two Koreas, also known as the Inter-Korean Transit Office or the Customs, Immigration and Quarantine Office of South Korea. That checkpoint is located in Paju, Gyeonggi-do Province, just south of the demilitarized zone separating South and North Korea. Around 200 Koreans used to pass through every day when the Kaesong Industrial Complex was still operating, but it has been pretty much empty since the complex was shut down until the recent Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, when North Korean VIPs and athletes came through here to enter the South. And it's been especially busy in the last few days before the Inter-Korean Summit. But at least for now, no one is passing through that checkpoint where that is situated right here.
Yes, Hee-jun, it does seem like a completely different scene than usual right here, right now.
So what exactly are you seeing on the ground? Are you seeing more press coverage, more people and reporters and journalists moving around beside you, or how is it happening?
Well, it's definitely not barren and very quiet like it used to be in recent years. And it is very early in the morning, but many people from the media have been arriving since hours ago to make last-minute preparations. Throughout the week, the Torasan checkpoint has been bustling with last-minute workers preparing studios and other equipment for live coverage of the summit. And I was actually here all day yesterday, and hundreds of people were here from both the local and foreign press. It's sure going to be a lot more hectic today now that the day of the summit has finally come. And of course, I'll keep you updated with what's going on here throughout the day until the summit ends. Back to you guys.
All right, we'll be looking forward to those updates. Thank you for those updates. We appreciate it, Hee-jun. And the basic rundown of the schedule for the day is out. There are 2 rounds of talks today, one in the morning and the other in the afternoon. And the first round of the talk starts at 9:30 a.m. South Korea time, as we mentioned, or 9 a.m. North Korea time.
And though it may not seem much, some watchers say the timing of the talks too has been carefully coordinated in consideration of the time differences for the North after the regime introduced its own time zone back in 2015. For more, our Ta Sang-mi reports.
The historic Third Inter-Korean Summit will start at 9:30 a.m. on Friday at the Truce Village of Panmunjom. And according to South Korea's Summit Preparatory Committee on Thursday, North Korean leader Kim Jong Un will cross the inter-Korean border on foot. Kim is expected to make his way to Panmunjom on car and cross the military demarcation line between the Military Armistice Commission T2 and T3 buildings. He will be greeted by President Moon Jae-in, and the two will then walk together towards a peace house where the summit talks will take place. On their way, they will inspect a guard of honor as part of the official welcoming ceremony. After Kim Jong-un signs the guest book, the talks will begin at 10:30 a.m. The leaders will have lunch separately. In the afternoon, the two leaders will plant a ceremonial pine tree on the military demarcation line, also laying a key stone that reads, quote, "Here we plant peace and prosperity." After taking a short walk toward to the MDL signpost, engaging in some friendly conversation, they will wrap up their summit talks, sign and announce a joint statement. However, the format of the agreement announcement as well as the location are yet to be revealed. The day will end with a welcoming dinner and a farewell party. According to the Summit Preparatory Committee, Friday's talks on denuclearization are expected to be very challenging compared to previous instances, as they come on the heels of Pyongyang declaring its nuclear and missile programs successful.
The difficult part is to what extent the two leaders can agree on and how that agreement can be expressed and stipulated. Though we say we've explicitly seen eye to eye on achieving the denuclearization, a perfect agreement can be determined at the working level. But the most essential parts are left up to the leaders.
Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News.
And another one of the things confirmed for today's Inter-Korean Summit is who made the starting lineup for both sides. The full list of officials who will be taking part in the hotly anticipated Seoul-Pyongyang Summit is out.
A 7-member delegation will be accompanying South Korean President Moon, while a 9-member team will be going with the North Korean leader Kim. Our Oh Jung-hee reports.
The pieces are now in place. South and North Korea have finalized the list of officials who will accompany their respective leaders to the April 27th summit. According to South Korea's presidential office of Cheongwade on Thursday, North Korea is sending 9 officials, most of whom have been at the center of this year's moves toward inter-Korean peace. They include North Korea's ceremonial leader Kim Yong-nam and Kim Jong-un's sister Kim Yo-jong, both of whom came to South Korea during the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics in February. Also on the list is Kim Yong-chol, who coordinated with the intelligence chiefs of South Korea and the U.S. in their preparatory meetings. The regime's foreign minister Lee Yong-ho and its unification committee chairman Lee Sun-kwon, who headed North Korean delegation to high-level talks, will be coming as well. Pyongyang's top military officials, such as Army Chief Lee Myung-soo and Defense Minister Park Young-sik, are also to accompany Kim Jong-un. Seoul released its list of officials last week. They are Presidential Chief of Staff Im Jong-seok, National Security Advisor Chung Eui-yong, National Intelligence Service Chief Seo Hoon, and the Ministers of Unification, National Defense, and Foreign Affairs. Added to the list on Thursday was the Chairman of South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chung Kyung-do. That's a total of 7 officials. The makeup of both delegations lean heavily towards security affairs.
The North Korean delegation includes some key military and foreign affairs figures, which at the beginning we didn't expect. We see that North Korea is considering not only the Inter-Korean Summit, but also a North Korea-US Summit as well, and possible cooperation with the international community in the future.
Im sees the inclusion by North Korea of key military officials as a way to enable deep discussions about measures to achieve denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula and to lower military tensions. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Let's take things back to the main press center. Various sessions are being held with experts for their take on the Inter-Korean summit and, of course, what to expect.
Watchers there say shutting down the regime's nuclear facilities and freezing its missiles and nuclear tests is clearly not the same thing as a complete denuclearization. Our Kim Min-jae tells us more.
The eyes of the world will be on the Korean peninsula on Friday as the leaders of South and North Korea sit down for talks. What kind of agreement comes out of the meeting and to what extent it differs from previous deals is of a particular interest, especially with a summit between North Korea and the U.S. in the works.
Declaring an end to the war could be difficult this time around, but I do expect agreements on things like preventing war on the Korean peninsula and ending hostilities. What helped gain North Korea's trust was President Moon Jae-in saying there would be no war on the peninsula without South Korea's consent. In preventing war, this kind of thing is important. On top of that, denuclearization or any announcement of the North giving up its ICBMs would be a big success.
But there have been doubts about the North's true intentions with its sudden change of stance. And although the regime has talked about shutting down its nuclear facilities and halting missile and nuclear tests, some experts point out that it's a positive step, but it won't amount to complete denuclearization.
Whether he is going to surrender all his nuclear weapons overnight, the answer is definitely not. Why? The North Korean leaders see their nuclear weapons as the only guarantee of their regime security. But it seems that facing a very strong and sometimes I would say excessively strong reaction from Trump administration, he has decided to slow down and reverse his course. I don't believe that denuclearization is possible because it goes against long-term interests.
But some experts see the potential for any outcome to bear fruit, since the Inter-Korean summit is being held relatively early in South Korean President Moon Jae-in's term in office. That gives his administration more time to see whether any promises made are kept, unlike in the past when summit talks were held near the end of the presidential terms. But it also means more responsibility on Seoul's part.
I like the word guide, rather than he used to use the word broker or matchmaker. That means we are out of it. Guide means we are driving the car. So that means we can direct directions and we can limit, even though it's wider. So in that sense, after this Inter-Korean summit, to have cooperation and to guide U.S. and to explain North Korean intention to him.
What's for sure is that Friday's summit should be used as a means to build trust that's been lost over the years on provocations and sanctions, and that it's the start of many more summits with North Korea to come. Kim Min-jae, Arirang News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has struck back at critics who say the United States has given North Korea too many concessions ahead of their planned summit. President Trump says it claims couldn't be further from the truth.
And the outspoken commander-in-chief also revealed that 3 or 4 dates are being discussed for the historic event. For details, let's turn to our Lee Seung-jae.
Calling into Fox and Friends on Thursday, President Trump insisted the only side that has given things up for the Washington-Pyongyang summit is North Korea, citing the regime's promises on denuclearization, testing, research, and on closing some of its nuclear sites. He said the United States hasn't made any concessions at all. President Trump's comments come a matter of days after the North announced it was closing its nuclear test site and suspending nuclear and intercontinental ballistic missile tests. Kim Jong Un has also indicated that he's ready to discuss denuclearization, but it remains unclear whether he's willing to give up the nuclear weapons his nation already has and what he would want in return. Trump argued that the only concession, if any, he has made to the North was his decision last month to accept Kim's invitation for a meeting. He added that, quote, the nuclear war would have happened if you have weak people. In regards to the date of what promises to be a historic summit between the U.S. and North Korea, President Trump said 3 or 4 dates are under review and that there are 5 possible venues being considered, but did not elaborate. Trump has said in the past that he will meet Kim in May or early June to talk about the denuclearization of the regime, but also stressed that he will walk away if the meeting is unlikely to be fruitful. President Trump also revealed information about Mike Pompeo's secret visit to Pyongyang earlier this month, saying his newly sworn-in Secretary of State wasn't supposed to meet with the North Korean leader, but ended up talking with Kim for more than an hour. Pompeo is the most senior U.S. official to meet a North Korean leader since 2000. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And back here in South Korea, Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa says the Inter-Korean Summit will set the course for the planned summit between the U.S. and North Korea.
Right, speaking to CNN on Thursday, the top diplomat says should consider the Inter-Korean Summit a success if there's a joint statement of understanding on a broad set of issues, including denuclearization, peace, and relations between the two countries. Ideally, adding Seoul would like to get the North Korean leader's commitment to denuclearize in writing.
Kang also said she was certain the meeting between the U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un will go ahead. She also strongly praised President Trump, saying a lot of credit should go to him as he's been determined to get to grips with the North Korea issues from day one. She also hailed President Moon Jae-in for his determination to get Pyongyang back to table for talks. Back at the main press center set up at the Kintex exhibition hall in Goyang, north of the capital Seoul, thousands of reporters are busier than ever with numerous news studios are set up all to deliver the unprecedented meeting between the leaders of the two Koreas.
And our Lee Ji-won covered a lot of ground, hot-footing it while she is in the huge venue. She got to speak to some of the reporters and news editors from various media around the world for their perspective on this very historic event.
With the world spotlight this week on Friday's Inter-Korean Summit, hundreds of reporters and media crews from around the globe have gathered at the Summit Press Center in Goyang, northwest of Seoul. Compared to the two previous Inter-Korean summits, where just over 1,000 reporters registered, the third historic meeting has over 2,800 press members signed up from 360 media companies and 41 countries. From live connections every hour to stories, speculation, and analysis on the summit, reporters are busy delivering the latest on the meeting.
Our newspaper for today filled one whole side with stories on this summit. 6 articles were posted, including stories on the route to be taken by the two leaders, what to expect from the summit, and even stories on this press center.
Though reporters each have different points of view, many say the key issue to watch out for during Friday's summit is denuclearization.
You know, were this happening at any other time and were Kim Jong Un not about to meet Donald Trump, I think the two Koreas could maybe focus on things that have maybe some more short-term relevance. But now I think what Moon really needs to do, top of his agenda, needs to be getting Kim Jong Un on paper, committing to denuclearization and committing to talks on denuclearization.
And it seems North Korea's increased nuclear threat and the high tensions on the peninsula last year grabbed more global media attention for this summit.
I think, at least at the last summit, North Korea was certainly not as big of an international story as it is now. It hadn't demonstrated the ability to hit the United States with long-range missiles. Now it has done all those things.
Many have also pointed out that improving inter-Korean ties is also an important issue.
Certainly the peace and the denuclearization. Whoever have relations or family relations with North Korea or vice versa, they can meet each other, they can come each other. Whatever the demilitarized zone, which is considered as the most sensitive borders in the world, soldiers should move back and people should come forward to meet each other.
And with so much at stake, the world will soon find out whether the solutions to these issues can be agreed upon during the summit on Friday. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
This just coming in, we have learned that South Korean President Moon Jae-in is expected to leave his presidential office of Cheongwade at around 8 a.m. South Korea time. So in a little over in half an hour's time, we'll see a convoy of including President Moon Jae-in, driving his way to the border line of Panmunjom, the border village of Panmunjom, to meet with his North Korean counterpart Kim Jong Un in the hour's time. And once we have more details, we will be sure to bring you the latest details on that. But for now, one of the agreements that is hoped to come out of the Inter-Korean summit for Kim Jong Un to promise is denuclearization.
But the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of its nuclear program, which some have called for, is likely to be more than a little difficult, according to Professor Seo Kyun-yeol.
And our Kwon Jang-ho sat down with the expert from Seoul National University for his take on the matter.
Professor, thank you for making the time to speak to us today.
Thanks for having me.
CVID, complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization. It's a term that's been mentioned a lot recently concerning the North Korea's denuclearization program. Can you briefly explain what it is and how it could be achieved?
When it comes to whether they can do it or not, your guess is as good as mine. Complete. It was added in 2003 because at the time North Korea was also doing uranium enrichment. So complete means not just plutonium, but also enriched uranium has to be looked into. Verifiable, of course. They should be, they meaning International Atomic Energy Agency or maybe the United States, maybe even United Nations, should be able to check where those materials are, where those facilities are. Third, last but not least, irreversible. Their program has to be completely destroyed so that they could never, ever be able to make it back.
So I'm getting from you that perhaps complete CVID might not be possible.
We're talking about pretty little mass of uranium and plutonium. It's less than the size of a watermelon. Now, they are spread all over in North Korea, and there's no knowing where they really are unless they tell the truth. Now, irreversible. How can you make it irreversible totally? Their program is already hard to reverse. In fact, what I'm saying is that they have already crossed the river of no return.
When you say they've crossed the point of no return, why is that? Why is it irreversible now?
Irreversible means that the nation should never be able to make it back. Then again, that means those personnel, actually the brains, scientists, engineers, technologists, or even technicians, have to be totally wiped out of the country. That's the only way. Just changing their jobs for a while, that doesn't make sense because they can always come back anytime. So for the time being, they could be talking about maybe disarmament, but denuclearization or dismantlement is pretty hard to achieve.
We've been down this road before. We've tried to denuclearize North Korea before.
Many times.
Many times. What lessons can we take from the previous attempts to try and denuclearize North Korea? What can we do differently this time?
It's again great question because this is not the first time, maybe sixth time around. We've been dancing this dance for 25 years. So what's the difference that has to be made this time? Maybe a different approach. It's got to be some kind of give and take. The United States especially has to give something over to North Korea. Then that might mean withdrawing, first of all, the U.S. Army, and second of all, getting rid of the nuclear umbrella one at a time. It's like a mutual deal that has to be made. That's more practical than complete CVID, which is just requiring only North Korea to do their homework.
Well, I guess we will wait to see what comes out of these summits with North Korea. Thank you for your time, Professor.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lee Ji-hyun with the latest weather update. typical spring weather is in the forecast under bright skies with big gaps in readings across the nation today. Just a warning, it will feel quite cool when the sun is not around. Up in Panmunjom, the venue of the Inter-Korean Summit, the two leaders of Korea will also have pleasant weather conditions with a warm high of 23 degrees Celsius. In fact, most major cities will see the high getting up to 23 degrees, including Seoul and Gyeongju under mostly sunny skies. But be aware that the capital area and the Chungcheongdo provinces could have high levels of fine dust today. And we'll see similar weather throughout the weekend and into next week, but it could get dusty at times, so check the levels before heading out. That's Korea for you, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
And that's all we have for you at this hour. Do join us in half an hour's time for the live coverage of what could be a drastic turning point in Korean history. Thank you for watching. This has been Daniel Choi.
And I'm Shin Se-min, and see you again. U.S. President Donald Trump has struck back at critics who say the United States has given North Korea too many concessions ahead of their planned summit. President Trump says it claims couldn't be further from the truth.
And the outspoken commander-in-chief also revealed that 3 or 4 dates are being discussed for the historic event. For details, let's turn to our Lee Seung-jae.
Calling into Fox and Friends on Thursday, President Trump insisted the only side that has given things up for the Washington-Pyongyang summit is North Korea, citing the regime's promises on denuclearization, testing, research, and on closing some of its nuclear sites. He said the United States hasn't made any concessions at all. President Trump's comments come a matter of days after the North announced it was closing its nuclear test site and suspending nuclear and intercontinental ballistic missile tests. Kim Jong Un has also indicated that he's ready to discuss denuclearization, but it remains unclear whether he's willing to give up the nuclear weapons his nation already has and what he would want in return. Trump argued that the only concession, if any, he has made to the North was his decision last month to accept Kim's invitation for a meeting. He added that, quote, the nuclear war would have happened if you have weak people. In regards to the date of what promises to be a historic summit between the U.S. and North Korea, President Trump said 3 or 4 dates are under review and that there are 5 possible venues being considered, but did not elaborate. Trump has said in the past that he will meet Kim in May or early June to talk about the denuclearization of the regime, but also stressed that he will walk away if the meeting is unlikely to be fruitful. President Trump also revealed information about Mike Pompeo's secret visit to Pyongyang earlier this month, saying his newly sworn-in Secretary of State wasn't supposed to meet with the North Korean leader, but ended up talking with Kim for more than an hour. Pompeo is the most senior U.S. official to meet a North Korean leader since 2000. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
You have come from far distance. Can you give us a short greeting? I crossed the 200-meter, and it's a very short distance. I told you earlier, but crossing this border itself, well, the border does not have a very high barrier, and it was easy for me to cross the border. And I came here to this very historic moment, and it took us 11 years. And as I walked here, I wondered what took us so long. Today is a very historic moment, but as I told you before, there are a lot of people who have high hopes. And because we need to have a very good agreement or document, but if they are not implemented properly or well, we will not have great developments, and this in turn will let many people down. So this is my determination, and we have lost 11 years, and I will make sure that we take use of the 11 years. And we will resolve issues, we will stay united, and we will have the same determination. And with such determination, we will be able to utilize the past 11 years. And at this moment, I have mixed feelings, and that's how I crossed the 200 meters. And at this moment here, I hope that we will write new history in terms of our cultural exchanges between the two nations. And we are here at a very important starting point. So we have a lot of issues of mutual interest, and we will deal with them frankly, and we will yield great results. And taking this opportunity, we will not go back to the original state, and we will not be able to not implement the agreement. And let's hope to look forward and walk together. There are many people who are anticipating today's results. And I saw earlier that the dinner menu is also a very hot topic here. And I also invited Pyongyang naengmyeon, or cold noodles from Pyongyang. So I hope, President, you can enjoy the Pyongyang noodles, which I brought from afar. Actually, not that far. I hope you can enjoy this menu. And I hope that we can seriously and frankly talk about the issues at hand with President Moon Jae-in. We will have very good dialogue, and which are very much in need. We will yield great results. And this I tell you, President Moon Jae-in, and I'll also share this message with the press corps. Thank you very much. As we celebrate our encounter, the weather is great today. I think we have spring here on the Korean Peninsula. The spring on the Korean Peninsula is garnering much attention globally, and we are here at Panmunjom, which is garnering international attention. Citizens from North and South Korea, as well as people around the world, are having high hopes, and it can also be interpreted as that we have very much burden on our shoulders. Chairman Kim, you crossed the border for the first time, and at that very moment, Panmunjom has become a symbol of peace instead of a symbol of division. And this is very much anticipated by our international citizens, and you have made today's moment possible, and thank you very much for your courage. Today, our dialogue and our talks will also be very frank, and I hope we could have great agreement so that all of our people in the nation can receive a great present of peace. Today, we will have a long time to discuss, and we will be spending the whole day together. So we will discuss in length the dialogue that we haven't been able to carry out for the past decade.